Then you have to have the voice, you see. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Janapalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janapalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janapalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janapalabha Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya, simple. Radha, nice and simple. Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janapalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janapalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janapalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janapalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Yashodanandana Bhajana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Nandi. So I suppose this large object could be removed. That's fine. That's great. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Good to be back. That's right. I did promise. That's right. Okay. Let's do that over again. Okay. Hare Krishna. Oh, wow. What a difference. Yeah, it's very good. Thank you for that. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite good. Glad to be back. I think there was a topic today, but who cares, right? We can pretty much you can talk about everything or anything and relate it to Krishna because everything comes from Krishna. Even on page 268 of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says you can be in the field of chemistry, literature, physics, psychology, any field of study is Hari Kirtan if it is offered to the Lord. So what does that mean to offer that to the Lord? So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. So we should read a little bit from Bhagavad Gita first, and then move into a talk, and then open up for lively discussion. Okay? Good. Oh, my name is Garuda Das, in case some of you didn't know. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Is there a particular verse on which someone would like me to speak? I can just open up to random verse here. Any verse will do. Actually, well, why don't we go to? Did you have a verse you want?
The final 3 verses.
Oh, you want me to go to those? The final 3 verses. Okay, well, we'll do that then. Okay. That would be chapter 18. Yes, then I'll have to explain a little bit about these verses. Okay. Chapter 18, verses 64 through 66. So we'll read the verses first, and then I'll cherry pick some from the Prabhupada's words. Okay? Sarva guyatamam bhuya shrinu me paramang vachaha. Ishtosi me dritham itti tato vakshyami te hatam. Okay, careful pronunciation. Yes, indeed. Well, first of all, let me tell you about my relationship with this verse. Out of all of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, there is not a single verse that is as emphatic and insistent and as dramatic as this verse. And on top of that, there is no verse where Krishna just allows his supreme heart to pour forth to Arjuna. So this is a very special verse. You see, in Sanskrit, there are no uppercase letters like we have in English. There's no boldface, no underlining, double strike, no emojis. There are no smiley faces in Sanskrit. I'll take you up on that a little later, Kishore Shyam. Yeah, okay. So And so if you're going to say it and if you're going to express it, you've got to speak it in Sanskrit. There's no other option. And having studied all 700 verses very, very carefully for years and years and years, at this point probably for about 53 years, I've come to know that this verse is the most dramatic in the whole text. Let me show you how. Sarvaguyatamam, the first words, the greatest secret of all. The greatest secret of all. Now, this is not only a superlative. This is a super superlative. It's not just the greatest secret. It's the greatest secret of all. Of all what? Of all other secrets. It is the greatest secret of all. If the verse just had that, we would be in for quite a gift, quite a treasure. But that's not all, he says. He then says, Bhuya Shrinu, Abhuya Shrinu Me, which means, once again, hear me. It's the imperative. Please hear me. Once again. In other words, I've said these things a little bit throughout the whole Gita, but I don't think you've heard me fully. So now I want to say it fully to you. Okay. If that weren't enough, Paramang Vachaha, my supreme message. Okay, are you catching on to this? 3 major, emphatic expressions here. And if that weren't enough, iti. Can you all see? Oh, you can see what I see, right? Yes. Okay, you see that little iti at the end of the third pada? Iti. Those are quotation marks. So he's putting his own words in quotation marks. That's his way of, after 3 emphatic expressions, underlining, boldface, emoji, whatever. Whatever resources he had at his disposal to send home this message thoroughly and finally, he has used. He's used not just a superlative, but a super superlative. He's pleaded with Arjuna, please hear this once again, finally. And then he's called it his Paramang Vachaha, my supreme message. There is no other message, ultimately. And then he puts it in quotation marks. And what is it? Ishto si medritam. Those simple words, ladies and gentlemen. You are so much loved by me. So simple. We're complicated. Krishna's simple. His love is simple. It has no conditions. It goes and it flows to everyone equally. Oh yes, you may be thinking earlier on in the Gita where Krishna says, I love no one, I hate no one, I am impartial, and I am partial to no one. He says that in the first part of the verse. But then in the second part of the verse he says, but one who starts loving me, I love them like crazy. Now that's my translation of my translation, put in a little more sort of colloquial language. And the reason for his impartiality is because he is not, first of all, pressuring any living being. And his love is very quiet and very secret. It's very personal. It's not public. You don't really have it here on the West Coast, but on the East Coast, where I'm from, when you drive down Interstate 95, I don't know how many times I'm reminded that Jesus loves me. On huge billboards. You know? How many of you have driven up and down I-95? Anyone in here? You have? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. It's there. Okay, verification. Okay, because the rest of you Californians might just think.
It happens here in California.
Is it really here too? Oh, I have to take a drink. That's tough. You will never see a sign, a billboard. I'm sure Vaisheshikaji, my old friend, is not trying to raise money for a billboard that says, Krishna loves you. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know him pretty well after 30, 40 years. That's not Vaisheshika. That's not Garuda. That's not any devotee. Because that's not what we do. The Krishna Bhakti tradition does not work with guilt, with threat, with coercion, with force, with fear of being condemned. It doesn't work that way. If love is to be love, it has to be free of any conditions. Krishna demonstrates this to us. This phrase, unconditional love, is thrown around a lot in popular sort of self-improvement circles and so on. The funny thing about it is that there's no such thing as unconditional love except with an unconditioned being. That doesn't mean we can't tap into that and be ambassadors of unconditional love. But unconditional love doesn't start here. It starts here. There are no conditions. Krishna says, you are so much loved by me only if you do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G the way I want you to. No, he doesn't do that. He puts it in quotation marks. That means he's finished. Ishtosi me dhritam. Finished. He stands in our hearts for an eternity, waiting for us to turn to him. I just think that's incredibly powerful. We can take thousands of births, however long it takes. Now, I call that love. He doesn't actively love us so personally until we start loving him personally. But he already embraces us with his Virata Rupa manifestation, his Vishwarupa manifestation. He's already embracing us. Bhagavan means one who embraces all the parts of existence. You can translate the possessive suffix that way, as an embrace. He already embraces us with his Brahman, his omnipresence everywhere. He already embraces us that way. So he embraces us from without, and then he also embraces us from within as Paramatman, as the Antaryaman. So he's already on our outside. He's already on the inside. He's already everywhere in nature. But he's still very, very quiet, not pressuring us. Have you ever had a friend who likes you a lot more than you like them? How annoying that is? They're calling you up way too much. You're thinking of changing your number. Krishna doesn't do that. He waits for when we are ready. This is all about love. Love means being sensitive to the other. And the supreme source of sensitivity is Krishna. So we have in this verse a calling out to Arjuna, a personal calling out to Arjuna, because by this time in the Bhagavad Gita, in the climactic chapter, the last chapter, and in the climactic 3 verses on which I have been asked to speak, finally Arjuna is ready to hear this. Before this, he wasn't quite ready, even though throughout he has been told, I love you, Arjuna. As early as the 4th chapter, he says this. But pressure, no pressure. Remember, Arjuna's a little upset. I'm exaggerating. He's a lot upset. He's extremely upset. He's devastated. He's absolutely devastated. He is shattered. He's not just a little upset. His heart has been shattered. He's been asked to do the most horrific thing. He's been placed in the most horrific situation. By this time in the Gita, he is ready to be open to Krishna's love. And this is what's happening here. And Krishna knows it. So that is why he expresses this. But if there's a lack of receptivity on the part of the beloved, then it's not a good idea to express affection. Then he says, Man mana mavabad bhakto badyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Or another way to understand this, because you are dearly loved by me, is priya. Dearly loved by me. Yeah, there's difficulty, in perceiving in Sanskrit when the Sanskrit is talking about love, because as I explained yesterday in the Berkeley Temple, didn't I? I think I did. Right? I did talk about that, right? That there's only one word in English that works, and that's love. And in Sanskrit, there are several dozen words for love in its various nuanced fashion. And I got a little too personal yesterday when I explained that I experimented with my wife about the word love. I decided to do some field work. I came home one day and I said, honey, you are very dear to me. And she said, what do you mean? Is there something wrong? I said, no. I said, you're very dear to me. What's wrong with that? Anyway, that didn't work. The next day I came home and I said, I'm extremely fond of you. She's looking at me like, there's something really wrong here. Now, I'm just trying to let you know about my field work here. I'm a scholar, and scholars do field work, and the field happened to be right in my home. Anyway, I did this for 7 days at great risk for all of you. I thought of various synonyms for love in English, and boy, finally, I told her, honey, I love you. She said, oh, you're back. She said, I was getting very worried. Okay, so in English, the only word that works is love. And in Sanskrit, there are dozens of words for love because a language reflects the soul of a people. And ancient India was filled with philosophy and filled with love. So naturally, it would have many words for love. Just like Eskimos have many words for white. Snow. I know you folks never have experienced snow, but there is something called snow, and it's white. And that's all they see up there. So they have various words for a little lighter white, a little darker white, that's all they can talk about, except for blue. Blue and white, pretty much it. Okay, so every language reflects the landscape, outer landscape and the inner landscape of a people. So here we have Krishna saying, Priyosime, you are dearly loved by me. Dearly loved. So that's one kind of love. And in this particular verse, Krishna is saying, thus you will come to me without fail. Do you know, I counted how many places in the Gita where Krishna expresses his interest in souls coming to him. See, this is what scholars do. You know, they count stuff like this. It's pathetic, but that's what they do. And this guy counted, how many times do you think Krishna says or expresses an interest in souls coming to him? Any idea? How many? 288. Well, okay, we'll work with that in a minute, but that's not a precise number, but that's good. Okay, but I mean, for example, let me ask you this. If you want to emphasize something to someone, you might say it once, but that's not enough to emphasize it. So you would normally say it maybe twice. Maybe, if I'm talking to Kishore Sham, and I'm saying, Kishore Sham, I am looking forward to coming to the San Jose temple. And he said, oh, good. No, Kishore, I really mean it. I really am looking forward to that. So that's twice, right? Yep. So by now, do you think he's getting it? Maybe. To make sure, maybe I'll do it a third time, right? Kishore Sham, I am so looking forward to coming to the San Jose temple, right? And after that, it gets to be a bit much. So you're 288, whatever it was. I mean, I feel sorry for your friends when they start, emphasizing things, right? Well, 22 times in this conversation, he mentions it. That is a lot. In a 2-hour conversation, that is a lot. That means he really, really wants souls to come to him. It's quite beautiful. I think it's a beautiful theme that, again, Krishna's not very loud. He brings these themes in subtly throughout, weaves these things in. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yishyami ma shuchaha. Ma shucha. You don't need to worry anymore. You don't need to be hopeless anymore. You have every reason to live and to live fully. How? By relinquishing all varieties of dharma, which is sort of funny because this is the greatest secret of all, what we're reading here. Well, Krishna has his great secret and his greater secret, all described in the 18th chapter. And next time you're reading the Bhagavad Gita, I want you to be mindful of this, that the first 50 verses of the 18th chapter describe the great secret. This is disclosed in verse 1863, that there is a great secret. And that great secret, as I've analyzed it, is found in chapter 18, verses 1 through 50. Then there's a greater secret, which is verses 51 through 63. The great secret, the 50 verses, are all devoted to Dharma. The great secret is to enter into one's dharma fully. To find one's swadharma. This is the answer to the problems of the outer world, dharma. And then he moves to the greater secret, which is then moving within. Connect your pure self to Brahman and Purusha, or Paramatman. Go within, connect deeply. So that's the great secret. So we're moving from the outer world to the inner world, and then Krishna, in only 3 verses, offers the greatest secret, and not just the greatest secret, but the greatest secret of all. Only in 3 verses. And the last verse of which he says, you know what I said about Dharma in the outer world? Just forget it. That'll come along. If you receive my love, everything else falls into place. That's why he can say, talk 50 verses about Dharma, or virtually the whole Gita about Dharma. What's the first word of the Bhagavad Gita? Dharma. The first word. And now he's saying, just forget about that. Go internally. Go deep, so deep, you will find divine love there. And then everything else falls into place. So don't you love that paradox? Don't you love that contradiction, that seeming contradiction? 50 verses, and then finally, when he's so intensely personal with Arjuna, he says, all else doesn't even pale by comparison. That's what he means. Of course Arjuna is going to stay in his dharma. You know, it's just that doesn't, it just pales by comparison to the gift of divine love, which is the most precious thing. Bhakti gariyasi, bhakti gariyasi. Tri satyasya bhakti gariyasi, bhakti gariyasi. The Bhakti Sutra says that of all the 3 worlds, the outer world, the innermost world, Tri satyasya, okay? The most precious thing is bhakti, is the ability to receive divine love. That is a bhakta. I just love this stuff. Prabhupada says, and just surrender unto me. Now, be careful. The word surrender isn't always a well-received word. It can be a militaristic word. It can imply subtly something done against one's will. That's not what Prabhupada means here. Ekam sharanam, sharanam shelter. Come to the one shelter that is I, Krishna says. Please, come. It's in the imperative. Please come now to me as your shelter. Everything else is taken care of. Yes. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. Yes. From I, you. I, with you, in relation to all misfortune. Sin is, again, used here. Papa can mean bad things that I do. But papa can also, has a wider meaning. Papa can mean, I can throw the kartals at one of the lights and put one of the lights out. And that's bad, that's destructive. Okay? But one of the lights, or one of the beams could fall on me. And that's bad, but I didn't cause it, but that still can be understood as papa. So it's a wider term. It means misfortune. So it means sin in the sense that I've done something bad, but something bad can happen to me. So that's also papa. So Krishna's saying, I will save you from things that you might do and also things that others might do to you, or things that might happen, right? The three kinds of things that can happen, right? The suffering that arises from other living beings, right? Adibhuta, right? And Adibhautika, right? Adhyatma or Adidaivaka, from just nature, natural causes, right? And then what about the worst one, the most devilish one? Adhyatma. Yeah. The devilish things that I do to myself. Yes. Yes, every night, each one of us has a private little Netflix streaming going on in our heads. It's called the dream world. And you don't get to choose. Yeah. It's chosen for you. By whom? By your mind. Yes. Your mind has a very specific film it would like to stream. And how do these various subject matters arise? By the things you need to take care of, the things you're still trying to deal with. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will confess to you, okay? I'm sorry I'm being very confessional today, but I will confess to all of you that at times, I hate to confess this, I'm such a boring person that I will dream a repeat of the day's activities. Like tonight, I'm likely to dream exactly what I'm doing right now. Now, why in the world do I repeat? I have no idea. So, if I want anything transcendental to dream about, it should be transcendental activities during the day. So I'm happy to see all of you again tonight in my dreams. Yes, including you. Yeah, I'm going to see you in my dreams tonight. Yeah, with your 288 repetitions. I'll probably harp on that for a while. So, we're peculiar creatures, aren't we? We dream about things according to the pleasurable and painful and wishful and fearful things that we haven't fully processed or addressed. Now, it's wonderful when you dream about devotees, you dream about Prabhupada. I have so many things that I could recall in my experiences with Prabhupada. And those dreams, now those are special dreams. I notice when I have those kind of dreams, I don't wake up in my usual kind of grogged, disoriented state. I wake up more like, wow. Did anyone know that I saw that film last night? It was a great film. The time I remember most with Prabhupada was when I was in Mayapur, in the first big Mayapur festival, back in 1974. When I must have told that story. You hear? Did I? When the steps? Probably not. Maybe not. Yeah. L.A. I told it? How do you know this? Get out. If anyone has been in L.A. when I was there, you need to leave right now. Vijay, you're making things way too complicated. Okay, yeah. Well, it's a simple story. In the first day of arriving in Mayapur, the Chandrodaya Mandir, there was literally just fields everywhere. There was nothing there except the 4-story Chandrodaya Mandir, and even that was unfinished. And I stayed on the top floor, the roof, and slept on a cement pile, dust cement dust pile. You can kind of mold it to your body, And it's kind of rough. But, you sort of, you have a shoulder blade there, so you kind of dig that into the cement pile, and then, your buttocks, kind of move that around. And, it's custom fit. It was actually quite nice. It had its advantages, really, In any case, they asked for volunteers to do some seva around the mandir, and I raised my hand. I said, I'd be happy to do something, So someone came up to me with a broom, said, sweep the stairs. Okay, there's a broom. I said, is there a pan or anything? No, just a broom. Okay. So, and it was even a Western-like broom. It wasn't one of those, things. Whatever is it called, Anyway, so I was sort of studying the stairs. I had to sort of figure this out. Because it's not often that I sweep stairs, honestly. And so I figured there are, 4 stories, and there are flights, and I actually figured out that if you start at the bottom, that's not wise, because dust tends to go down. So I decided, I'll start at the top. I really was very smart back in those days. Yeah. I really am quite proud of how I figured that out. I started at the top. I really did. I know you don't believe me. Okay. Anyway, the point is, I started at the top, and I realized that I could acquire a greater and greater, pile of debris and dust, and it was a building site. Prabhupada was staying on the 2nd floor. Prabhupada's floor eventually was to be the top floor, where he could get quiet and he could be out on the veranda and so on. So I'm sweeping and I'm down by the 2nd floor, and by the way, the staircase went zigzag. It had a landing in between each floor. So by this time, and this is taking me, quite a bit of time, because I'm very careful and studious about, every little bit of debris coming with me down the stairs. So I'm almost down to the 1st floor, and I'm on the landing between the 2nd floor and the 1st floor. And suddenly, someone comes around to the 2nd floor opening to the staircase and says, Prabhupada's coming, and then disappears. I'm wondering, well, what in the world am I supposed to do? This man obviously had no compassion at all. He didn't help me out, you need some help here, Prabhupada's coming, maybe I can help you. No consideration. So I'm standing there thinking, so Prabhupada is coming, there's a huge pile of dust and debris on the landing, taking up most of the landing. And then, before I could even strategize, and back then I was smart but slow. Now I'm not smart and I'm not fast. So I have extra challenges now. But back then I was smart, but I was slow. And then all I see coming around the corner, these sort of dundas, right? Sort of framing Prabhupada right in the middle. And I'm looking up at this, and I'm going, I just freeze, and with the broom like my dunda. Appropriate to my station in life. They have their dundas. My dunda was not saffron. It was more brown. And there comes Prabhupada down the stairs, and I'm standing there like that farmer picture with a pitchfork or something like that. Just just as stiff as that guy, and then I managed to I mean, there's nothing I can do, right? So if I offer obeisance, I will literally be stopping about 15 people. So I can't do that. I just kind of shrink back into the corner with my dunda, and I'm looking at Prabhupada saying, with my face, an expression like, I don't know what else to do. Prabhupada gives me this huge smile, probably a little entertained by my awkward position. I watch Prabhupada's lotus feet trample right through my beautifully sculpted pile of debris and dust, which I had carefully engineered. And then the others trampled through it. And then I watched them all go down the stairs. I'm still like this. And I look back down at the one imprint that I could tell was Prabhupada's. And I did a dive and just went like that. And that sometimes I dream about, is a repeat. So sometimes it's good to have a repeat session, like a good movie. You want to see again, right? Well, that's a movie I love seeing. And I can remember so vividly, even though it's happened, I don't know how, I can't even count, 44 years ago, or something like that. So memory is good. We remember also things that we love. And the more we love, the more we will focus on those things. Because there's nothing more powerful than the heart's memory. But that also includes things that we fear. That includes things that hurt us. So those things within Krishna Bhakti can be addressed, but are best addressed when we can connect with the source of love. We should never deny ourselves our personal histories, our personal challenges, because all of those things, all of those imperfect events are perfect for each of us. Perfect in teaching us about love, about how to receive more of Krishna's love. So that's also a secret. How to appreciate the difficult things that we've encountered, as privileged and as fortunate as all of us are here. I mean, we're very fortunate, very privileged people in here. I mean, it doesn't get more privileged than this, really. I mean, we are very spoiled. We have everything in life that we could possibly want. But if we lack love, then nothing. There is no greater impoverishment than a heart empty of love, either to give or to receive. There's no greater impoverishment. So we can be a wealthy country. We can be wealthy individuals. We can live in a huge mansion, but without love, it is a jail. It is hell. Love is what makes a real spiritual mansion. To be connecting with the hearts of other bhaktas. Machitta magata prana bodhayanta parasparam. Katyantascha mam nityam tushyanticha ramanticha. Ramanticha. How enjoyable it is. So enjoyable to connect with other devotees. Katyantascha mam nityam. To endlessly be discussing spiritual topics. But what does Krishna say in that verse, chapter 10, verse 9? He says, first, try to connect with me a little bit. Machitta magata prana. Look at that. How does this happen? I wish this could happen. Could I take this home? Just say a verse and suddenly it's up on the screen. It's a voice recognition thing? I don't know what it is. Oh, Silicon Valley. Yeah. ISKCON, Silicon. Yeah. Okay. I get it. No, I know what's going on here. Yeah. Vaisheshika didn't warn me about a lot of the things that I could expect here, but this is our process. Our process has to begin right here. The loving connections between devotees' hearts is the most important thing to establish. Before we can hear Krishna's love for us, we need to find it in the heart of another bhakta, even in LA. I'll let you stay. Yeah. Not that I have any authority here. But seriously, sadhu sangha is the most important feature on the way to attaining prema. The list, as you know, it begins with ado shraddha. First, there is faith. And the word faith itself in Sanskrit means that where you place your heart. Shraddha, right? Dha, to place. Shraddha, the heart. Where you place the heart. And then we quickly learn that the best place to place our heart is with other bhaktas. How sweet it is to love other bhaktas and to receive the love from other bhaktas. But conversely, there is nothing more painful than to be shunned or judged or harshly treated by another bhakta. I find that many bhaktas do not appreciate this. There's no reason at all to ever hurt another bhakta. But it goes on too much. It goes on too much. Mahaprabhu, in that catechism, that famous catechism in Madhya Lila, chapters 8 and 9, mainly chapter 8, Mahaprabhu Gauranga asks Ramananda Roy, what is the most painful thing in life? He says, the loss of a devotee. This is the most painful thing. He didn't say death. He said the loss. You can lose a devotee right in the here and now, right here. When harshness comes into play, judgmentalism. Someone sent me a text on my phone where Prabhupada is condemning beards. Do you think they were trying to tell me something? Or was it just for fun? You see, here's the problem. Prabhupada has set standards that generally apply to all. And then he has personalized these standards depending. There is also the example of Krishna in the Gita, where he established the standard teachings of Sankhya, of yoga, of sacrifice, of so many things, renunciation. But in the narrative, that Sanjaya gives us, and in Krishna's personal words to Arjuna, he customizes. Similarly, Prabhupada gave standard principles, standard rules for everyone. But in his personal dealings with devotees, there was a lot of variety and a lot of breaking of the rules, especially of the rules that weren't even that important. Because Prabhupada also delivers to us in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or the Nectar of Devotion, that a pure devotee can appear just like an ordinary person. You would never know that he or she was a pure devotee. So there's no necessarily specific way to identify a devotee. Of course, it's nice and convenient when you have the, no one goes around wearing this, and the dhoti and the tilak is a fair giveaway. If you find anyone wearing tilak and they're not a devotee, then you should really tell them to wash it off. Because this is the sure sign. I remember running into, taking a plane down to Florida. And I was just there looking like just an ordinary old man traveling. And then I saw a young lady in a sari with tilak and a bead bag. And I got, oh my God, I got all excited. Among all these travelers, I come across a devotee. So I caught her eye and I said, Hare Krishna, and she looked away. Did I chant the wrong mantra or something? Om Namah Shivaya. I was trying to track my pattern here, And anyway, she looked a little scared, and I guess I'm a scary person to look at. I mean, I rarely look at myself, and when I see myself, I also get scared. So it turns out that on the plane, she was sitting right behind me. I was aware of that. I'm not sure she was. So I'm there during this hour flight, this short flight, trying to figure out how to let her know that I appreciate her devotional presence on this plane, because I doubt there's anyone else that shares, this. But I don't want to scare her. Because, remember, I'm scary. So I picked up my phone, and I had a picture of the painting that I custom ordered of the Ras Mandala for my first book, published by Princeton. So I put it on my phone, and I kind of went like this, and I wasn't sure she saw it, so I went. I'm sorry, I really don't, I don't have a lot of decorum required for these awkward circumstances. But and then I sort of lowered it. And then, sort of wondering what was going on, so I peeked over the seat. And she said, Hari Bol Prabhu. Anyway, so my point is sadhu sangha is very important, okay? Even on a plane. And a devotee doesn't always look like a devotee. That's okay. Where must a devotee look like a devotee? Here. This is where they have to look like a devotee and feel like a devotee and be acting forth as a devotee. Prabhupada in that that television interview, I believe it was a television or radio, I can't remember, but the interviewer said to Prabhupada, so how would you know when you came across a devotee? And of course I was thinking as I was reading this, oh, it's obvious, that, it's kind of obvious, we're kind of obvious people, And he said, you would know by the fact he was a perfect gentleman. And presumably perfect lady. Okay. That really got me thinking a little bit. It's not an external thing. Dharmang tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The way we behave establishes principles of religion. Mahaprabhu said this is the crown jewel of a Vaishnava, is how we behave. Not just in front of the deities, but in front of each other. This is so important. To be loving and kind. And, the fact is, we have no idea who we're in front of. This devotee could be, just well on their way back to Godhead, right? I mean, they could be, who knows? You can't know. You can't know. That's what I go around telling devotees about me. You can't know. I could be really on my way back. They don't generally believe me, but I try to convince them. Like, I'm really special. And they don't see it. So I don't generally recommend that you go around doing what I've been doing. Okay? But the fact is, all bhaktas are very special. They really are. There's nothing like a bhakta. If you see one at the airport, just be nice. Don't do any freaky things. Scare them. Okay? That's a great lesson I want for all of you today. But the more important lesson is that on the way to attaining prema, sadhu sangha is the singularly most important thing of all principles, of all devotional principles. And yet, it seems like the most obvious one that we have all the time because, hey, all you got to do is come to this address and we're associating with devotees. No, it takes more than that. And we think all we have to do is jump up and down in front of the beautiful, beautiful deities. Radha Madan Mohan. Right? That's the name of the deities, right? Radha Madan Mohan, right? No, but that's not enough. Prabhupada was known for saying that Krishna says, he who worships me does not worship me, but he who worships my devotee, that one worships me. All begins with the bhakta. It's sort of like Arjuna. Krishna's problems, the solution to Arjuna's problems was standing there all the time, but didn't know how to take advantage of it until he started the katha, the interaction, the loving exchange. We have to learn how to do that with each other. This is not something automatic. So once there is the shraddha, ado shraddha tata tato sanosanga, then there's the bhajana kriya, the engagement of devotional service, according to how well you've received that heart connection. Then there's the bhajana kriya, the initiation of the guru, the teachings of the guru, the guidance of the guru, or guravi, female and male. all guide the bhakta. Then anartha nivritti, everything unnecessary in one's life falls away. Anartha nivritti. Then one gets strong, nishta. Nishta. And then one acquires even more attraction and more of a taste, ruchi. And then one gets so attached, asakti. And then bhava, deepest feeling, is cultivated. And then one attains prema. But don't forget, prema then intensifies in 7 more ways. You think you're through when you get the prema? The other day I woke up, I attained prema. I realized, oh my gosh, I got 7 more. I got 7 more steps to go. Yes, what comes after prema? Sneha. Sneha. Intimate, very affectionate transactions between yourself and divinity. Sneha. How do you describe this? Sneha, it's this tenderness. That's it. Sneha, tenderness. Then after that, there is mana, boldness. So it's almost like kind of going the other direction. Mana, boldness. What's the next one? The next one is pranaya. Yes, pranaya, affection. Very affectionate, expressive, very affectionate expression of one's love to divinity. And then raga, passionate, more intense expression of prema to Krishna in all his manifestations, not just to Krishna on the altar, Krishna on this altar of a bhakta's heart. This is where all of this gets expressed. Then anuraga, in more intensified raga, that which follows raga, and then bhava. Again, bhava of a different order. Bhava on the way to prema, and this is bhava as the deepest dimension of prema. And then mahabhava, which we don't get. That is for us to appreciate in Radha and Mahaprabhu Gauranga. So we have a beautiful process. But I've gone on way too long, I think. I think I need to stop before I say something else that's very embarrassing to me, first of all. But I'm gonna open up for comments and questions here. Yeah, Vijay, I'm almost afraid to hear from you, but go ahead. No, seriously, it's a delight to see you. Absolutely delightful to see you.
So, thank you, Prabhuji. I reciprocate your sentiments, not the first part, but the second part.
Oh yeah.
Where you're
okay,
afraid.
good. Yeah.
Scholarly, sorry.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions. The first question is, are there Shastric codes to differentiate between giving and receiving love? I know the letter of instruction has that, but more deeper parts, especially in Bhagavatam. You can give me a general area, that's good. And I can go and research, I don't want to take all your time, but you mentioned about giving and receiving both love. So when I intensify both, which aspects to be dealt with, which stories deal with one or the other? Could you give me some hints in Bhagavatam?
Examples in the Bhagavata of giving and exchange of love?
Oh, well, one that differentiates more on the giving and the one that differentiates more on the receiving.
Receiving, okay. Well, there are many examples. The supreme example is that of Krishna with the Vrajagopikas. That is the ultimate example. In the Bhakti Sutra, of all the possible bhaktas that that the author of the Bhakti Sutra could have chosen from the Ramayana, from all of the different Puranic stories. The Vraja Gopikas are the ones who are the supreme exemplars of bhakti. You know, that's why I wrote about it in my first book. It wasn't my choice to write about the Ras Leela. In fact, in the movement, it used to be a little taboo. It's like too advanced. You don't go there. You don't do that sort of thing. You don't write about the Ras Leela. So that was never my intention. I was going to do at Harvard, where I was trained. I was in comparative religion. I was supposed to do a comparative study between two thinkers, one in the Christian tradition, one in the Vaishnava tradition. And my advisor said to me, I'm sure that there's plenty of theological and academic treatment on the Christian side. What I'm worried about is that there's not enough on the Vaishnava side. So he said to me, he confronted me. He said, so, tell me, what is the highest vision of Krishna Bhakti? It's a little disconcerting to have your doctoral advisor ask you, what is the highest vision in all of Krishna Bhakti? You know, it's just he sitting across his desk and myself sitting in front of the desk, and I'm sitting there, and he could see that I was slightly startled by the question, not quite prepared. So he said, take your time. So, of course, immediately I'm like going rapidly through, Bhagavad Gita, rapidly through the Bhagavatam, quickly, all the way Dashama Skanda, past the 12th Skanda, and I'm going all the way through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the way through the Bhakti. I'm like flipping my mind, like going through faster than any of you Silicon Valley people. Faster than your little chips, your little bag of chips. Okay? It's going lightning fast through all of these passages. Everything I've ever known and studied, I had to bring to the foreground. And I remembered how much Swarup Damodar, Mahaprabhu's personal secretary, the only thing that would ultimately please Mahaprabhu was recitations of the Rasa Panchadhyayi. He's the Supreme Bhakta, listening to the Supreme Shastra. So I said, it would have to be the Ras Leela. Yeah, I said yes, with confidence. I said yes, that is I said, as the cross is the great symbol for Christians, the Ras Mandala is the great symbol for Krishna Bhaktas. And I explained that Radha Krishna is non-different from the Ras Mandala of Vraja Gopikas, because the Vraja Gopikas, each one is but an embodiment of each one of Radha's emotions. So therefore, when you look at Radha Madan Mohan, you need to know you're looking at the Ras Mandala. And when you're looking at the Ras Mandala, you're looking at Radha Madan Mohan. I said, that is the ultimate vision. He said, well, has this been academically treated? I said, well, it must be. Hoping that, this would not be my direction. He said, well, then show me. So for a month, I scoured the Harvard libraries, the largest library system in the world. And I came back with nothing. He said, what do you have? I said, I have nothing. He said, and I was dreading this, he said, that is your dissertation topic. And that is why I wrote on the Rasa Panchadhyayi, the 5 chapters of the Ras Leela. Vijay, that's it's too big a question to answer, I'm afraid. The love the love between Krishna and the Vrajagopikas, the love between Radha and Krishna, I'm just going to tell you to gaze on their beautiful forms and get the answer from them. I know it's a cop-out. It's a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Krishna Prabhuji. So, I have a question on Prabhupada's conversation on Socrates. He said, the philosopher Socrates, he said that...
Socrates.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he is in the view of the sophist, which is the speculators, in terms of the making a social convention for the religious understanding to right and wrong and true and false. So both in considering in a relative way and making a conclusion. So some person Prabhupada says yes. So I don't understand what exactly the sophist thinks about right and wrong and true and false, and how those religious a conclusion can be derived from those relative understanding. And what does it mean actually for selecting based on assumption of a right and wrong and then true and false, then you consider what to be the truth. So that may lead a wrong understanding in one perspective.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask this. Long ago, I studied Western philosophy, starting with Plato, who is, of course, Socrates' student, who wrote down and recorded the Socratic dialogues. And as far as Socrates' works and his dialogues on ethics, I would have to go back to that and really look at that. But one thing that is interesting that I can say that always I always sort of delight in is the way that that Plato, being the father of Western philosophy, really is more like ancient Indian philosophy than anyone else that's come along. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was really some resonance between Socrates' teachings and the Dharmic teachings of India. But curious, why do you ask? What prompted that?
No, I was asking,
you were driving in your car and you were thinking, I wonder what Socrates says about ethics in relation to India? No, surely not.
So two things. One is you mentioned about that you did comparative studies in Harvard.
Yes.
So I just wanted to curious what is comparative in terms of Socrates' thinking to what Prabhupada said and can give some enlightenment. And second thing is today also in our Falsa Bhagavatam, we have this one in the session of social justice based on the Western thinkers. So I just wanted to clarify.
Yes. Well, okay. Mine is comparative religion, not comparative philosophy. So that's why my studies of Plato wouldn't have been as serious as, for example, my studies of Christianity. So and Judaism and Islam. There's where my studies would lie more than in philosophy. That said, when talking about social justice, social policy, ethics, outer world ethics, the Bhagavad Gita has a tacit teaching about ethics. Because Arjuna was given an irresolvable ethical dilemma, that itself is a teaching. The tacit and most powerful teaching, but subtle, in terms of ethics in the Bhagavad Gita, is that no matter how much we want to perfect an ethics in this world, it will always be imperfect. It will always fall short. That is not to say that we shouldn't strive for the best way to act in this world. But to act out of love is the safest thing. To act out of love and care and sensitivity. This is the way that we should act. But in this world, systems of ethics just fail us. And in fact, Arjuna went through every kind of ethical reasoning that we have in the West. You know, deontological ethics. Nope, that didn't work. Utilitarian ethics. That didn't work. Consequentialist ethics. That didn't work. All forms of ethics he went through. It could be a very interesting thesis to analyze all of the different ethical positions. They fail. They all failed Arjuna with his dilemma. And the lesson, the implicit or tacit lesson in this, is that if we're trying to seek out perfect peace or formulas for perfect peace in this world, we'll never find it. This world is designed for conflict. It's the power of a bhakta to go beyond the conflict of this world and to embody the highest ethical standards possible. Did you want to, Kishore?
The best comparison in Western thought, I've argued for Garudaji's understanding of Bhagavad Gita. He said, if you recall, always act out of love. Focusing on the response to an ethical situation is acting out of love. The best analogy in Western thought is feminist care ethics in that regard. So that's a much newer than anything in ancient Greece. But if you investigate feminist care ethics, you'll find it's much more similar to the ethics of Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, and I think that's one thing you'll have in your midst with Kishore Sham, who's supposed to be taking his doctoral exams in that soon, and we're trying to push him along in his doctoral work, and he's not the easiest person in the world to work with. Okay, no, he's a delight, and we're looking forward to that. He's going to be a specialist in that kind of ethical area, so that's exciting. But in terms of the whole picture of bhakti, ethics is not ever going to fully work perfectly. Arjuna didn't have a perfect, ending. But he did in the sense that he did end up acting from the heart. So, anyway, it's good. It's very interesting stuff. Yes. Wait, are we skipping the ladies here at all, or am I ignoring? Oh, we have to get we have to get the ladies, and then if there's time, we have 5 minutes left, I think. So get the microphone down to this lady here, and then we'll try to get back to you too, okay? Yeah.
Okay, so my question is regarding surrender. Krishna wants us to surrender. This word surrender comes up all the time in Bhagavad Gita. So my question is, these stages that you mentioned going up to the bhava and, not Mahabhava, but everything else, does this mark our level of surrender, those stages?
Oh, okay, well, now remember we talked about the word surrender. Okay, so really the way I take Prabhupada's translation here is an offering of the self, a deliberate, voluntary, loving offering of the self-surrender of love. And the more we give ourselves to the bhakti process, the more we'll find ourselves, moving more and more into the depths of the heart. That's what's so exciting. Yeah. I mean, my plane trip, in finding a bhakta on the plane was exciting in and of itself. But this is a much more exciting plane trip. Going deep into the heart is a very exciting journey. Yeah. But it begins with connecting with bhaktas. That's so important. I cannot overemphasize this. It's just so important. It begins right. The irony is it begins right here with all of us. Yeah. Next time you turn around and look at the bhakta next to you, look at them with suspicion. I think you have all the answers for my life. Talk to me. Okay, it doesn't have to get that weird. Okay? See, I can say that because I'm leaving in 5 minutes. And I don't care what happens after I leave. Okay? So, others here will have to deal with it. Okay? The other bhaktas here. But seriously, it really is right in front of us. And that's, as much as we may distribute books and literature and so on, that's fine. But one of the ways, I know Vaisheshika pretty well after decades. It's not about sales technique. It's about affection. He's a very affectionate man. And that's the way to deliver any message, is with affection. It's really about that. It's not about sales. It's about love. The microphone? Can you throw that over there? Oh, no, don't do that. Okay, yeah, let's just hand it down there. Yeah. I realized that could have been a risk. Oh, you got a question.
So, Prabhuji, I have a question in Bhagavad Gita. So, so when Krishna he's speaking, he's saying surrender to the Supreme, and then later he reveals that he's the Supreme. So sometimes some commentators they pick up this verse and they say that Krishna is telling surrender to the Supreme. That means he's not Supreme, and they try to put this logic and get Krishna out of the way. So I was just wondering why he speaks this way to Arjuna.
Why Krishna speaks about the Supreme in the third person?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah, okay, next question. Okay, no, it is an easy one because he is speaking about the Purusha. He is speaking about his other manifestations. The Brahman is the Supreme. Purusha is the Supreme. And actually, in his Bhagavan form, he doesn't really think of himself as the Supreme. That's the whole point. That's why he can stay there with Arjuna. He doesn't want to stick around the Supreme. He wants to be intimately connected. This is Sringara Rasa. This is Madhurya, the intimate connection between divinity and devotee. So that's why he can speak of the Supreme. Like, the Supreme is embracing you all around on the outside and on the inside. But now let us, you and I, let me tell you, you are so much loved by me. That's 1864. One more quick question from you, then I'm told I have to stop.
Does that show his humility quality?
Krishna is supremely powerful and supremely humble, yes. Whatever he has, it's supreme. And he's supremely intimate. Anyway, there's so much more I could say on this, but I will quickly ask this young lady to ask her question, and then I have to stop because I think you have announcements also to make, right? Right, someone told me. No?
I think.
Yes?
Prabhuji,
No?
we have Aarti at 5. So.
Yes? No? You are all confusing me,
Okay, yes.
and I am a simple man. Okay, next question. And we'll end with this young lady's question, comment. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's not on. Oh, there it is.
Okay, there it is. Thank you, Prabhuji. So I heard, how will you know when you're in sadhusanga? How do you know when you're with a devotee? And you said they're perfect in action. That's a lot of pressure, right? And it almost is like immobilizing. I'm like, well, I don't want to do anything because perfection, is that really possible? So then you feel stuck, or like missteps happen, you make mistakes. So
Yeah.
my question is, what do you do then?
Okay. In the simplest and quickest response, I will say, first of all, we speak a lot about perfection. Actually, we're about something beyond perfection. We're about imperfection, not in the sense of flawed, but in the grammatical sense. Something that began in the past but continues forever in the present. It is forever moving beyond perfection. The gopis' love for Krishna never reaches a plateau. I experimented with this one day. I said to my wife, I said, yeah, I've reached perfection today. She looked at me and she just walked away. So obviously she was teaching me this, right? There is no perfection, there's imperfection. There's always more and more. There is no depth to the divine heart. And frankly, there's no depth to the bhakta's heart. How to do it? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam is the key. And we overlook this. How many of us are really good at hearing? Keep listening. Not only to hear completely and more fully the other person, but keep hearing until you hear Krishna speaking to you as to how to respond to your partner. It's about hearing and responding. Shravanam, kirtanam. And have you ever gotten locked into a great conversation with someone? All of us have, right? You are then more of who you are than before you started that conversation. That upliftment is that Vishnu Smarnam. That's the samadhi of conversation, of katha. Sharing, but sharing appropriately, in a balanced way, in a reciprocal way. Don't just bleed your heart out fully to someone. It's a perfect stranger. I've tried that. It didn't work. Again, I do field work. You know what I mean? I try everything. And even when people have come to me, and, like at a Sunday feast or something, one person I think I mentioned this last time, someone came and I asked them their name and they told me their name was God. Remember I told you this? Remember that? So that's like TMI. And when we got really right down to it, he's had some godly, neuroses and so on. But the point is this, but seriously, it's about sharing and gradually earning each other's trust and really intimately appreciating and understanding one's heart's struggles and one's heart's sweetness. That's what it's about. Shravanam, hearing. I know this is a little corny, but I'm going to leave you with this. When you hear deeply and enough and sweetly, you put the T on the end of the word hear. Okay? I'll leave you with that. Little corny, but I think meaningful message. Okay? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, that's enough. Did you tell them to do this? You and Vijay. Vijay, that was you. I look forward to coming back. I think I'll be back in the winter at some point. Hare Krishna. All the best to all of you. Oh, I'm caught.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Now we can put away the cushions and gather near Prabhupada for the monthly Sankirtan offering.
I'm afraid I can't stay. I have to give